Thank you for joining us today for the Executive Roundtable this week. I know during the summer we've been a little on and off, but usually Tuesdays at noon. Very, very excited to be here. I'm Maricela Herrera, for those of you who don't know me, but I feel like I know everyone here. I'm the CEO of Ellevate Network. Very recently took on that role and very excited to be now the host of the Executive Roundtable. Today, we're going to talk about something that I think is very top of mind for all of us. How are we growing our business throughout a downturn? And I can't be more excited to have our guest expert today, Deb Boulanger, who is the founder of the Launch Lab for Women, an incredible coach and accelerator for women entrepreneurs. And very importantly, the person behind our Ellevate Entrepreneur Roundtable. So you might know her from there as well. Deb, I know that Oyen already posted in the chat, but if you want to chime in, one of the questions that we have for you guys is, do you currently have a business? Do you want to have a business? Or do you want to grow your success in the role you have? We're trying to get a little bit of a pulse check here on where everyone's at.
Yeah, today's conversation will be relevant to all of you, no matter where you are. Great to see you, Pam. Pam's a regular in the Entrepreneur Roundtable as well. So yes, wherever you are on the spectrum, whether you have a business and you want to keep growing, or you want to start a business and it feels a little daunting right now with everything going on in the outside world, or you are currently in a business and making sure that business continues and succeeds is vitally important to your career. So I'll make sure that our comments are relevant to everyone here today. We're a relatively small group and intending to grow in your role. So intending to grow in your role means that you need to be relevant to what's going on at your organization, and keeping your ear to the ground on the pulse of what's going on with your customers. So I have a few slides to share to kind of set up the conversation today. We are a relatively small group, so I'm happy to just keep the group together and keep us in a small container, and then we can have conversations about how this applies to you. Does that sound good? Give me a thumbs up. Yeah. Okay, thanks. And I appreciate cameras on. Thank you so much for those of you who can. I greatly appreciate seeing your lovely faces. And so with that, growing your business in an economic downturn. A little bit about me, if you don't know me. I have spent right now well over 30 years launching services, in the services sector. So I've been in sales, I've been in corporate marketing, I've been in corporate product development for a tech advisory company, and I was an executive leader in that company. I started and ran a $32 million business unit, started it, grew it to 32 million in 30 months, then realized that I love launching things. I don't necessarily love operating business units with 53 people working for me. I am an expert at pattern recognition, concept development, and launching services that sell. And whether we're in an economic downturn or an economic boom, it doesn't matter. We always want to be relevant to the audience, to the markets that we serve. And as Maricela mentioned, I'm the founder of the Launch Lab for Women Entrepreneurs and the Six-Figure Accelerator. And I'm also host of a very fun podcast called Life After Corporate. So if you're thinking about leaving corporate, or you've just left the corporate world, it's a fun place to be. So why this conversation? Well, clearly we are in challenging times. We have gone from a pandemic to an economic downturn, perhaps a recession on a global scale. There's a lot of challenges going on, and people are questioning the future. What's next for me? Companies have started laying off people. Customers may be deferring or defaulting on their contracts. So what can you as a business owner do to sustain and, sorry for the typo, even grow your business, because it is possible. So I just want to say that over the last 5 years, My small coaching consulting business has grown an average of 80% year over year. And year to date, we are up 73% in revenue. So even though these have been challenging times, it hasn't really affected our growth negatively. That's what I want to share with you here today. So if you're taking notes, I invite you to draw a grid with 4 boxes. On the top left is the problem. That's the problem you solve. On the top right is the people you serve. Those are the people who are your ideal clients or customers, the people who are in the market that you serve. On the bottom left is your product. And is there anyone here who is actually in the product business, or is everyone in services? Just type your industry, if you would, in chat so that I can make this most relevant. I don't typically work with product-based businesses because that's a whole nother business model. There are supply chains and e-commerce platforms and a lot of things that are not in my field of expertise. But in the services space, I am. Hey, Kalpa, great to see you, my friend. DEI and banking, service. Krista, interesting. What's your product? I'd love to know. Legal and telecom. All right, so today's conversation will be mostly relevant to people in the services space, but the same principles apply whether you have a physical product. And then on the bottom right is your message. How are you connecting with your ideal client audience through your marketing? And it's super important. The problem, the people, the product, and the message are all inextricably linked. So the first thing we're going to do is look at the problem box. And the first question we're going to ask is, am I solving the right problem? And are people willing to invest in order to get it solved? So am I solving the right problem? And the opportunity that we have whenever there's a shift, whether it was COVID and corporate culture shifted and business models had to shift and new businesses emerged during that pandemic. I mean, who knew that homeschooling was going to be such a huge challenge? That opens up new opportunities. DEI a few years ago was a new opportunity. It was a new challenge that companies were realizing. Now it's all about attracting and retaining top talent. And at the same time, we have these tectonic shifts happening. We have companies struggling to hire the right employees or hiring enough employees, and we have other companies laying employees off. And yet we have record employment. The employment numbers just came out last week. Has a new problem emerged as a result of the pandemic or the recession or the economic downturn? And do you need to shift your focus on the problem that you solve? And we're looking for the ideal scenario where there is big demand, there's an active search for solutions, and there are few providers. Now we're in an increasingly crowded market, especially in coaching and consulting and in the services space. So there may be many providers, but we want to carve out a unique niche and solving a problem, identifying a gap that is a big pain point for people. And how to think about this is ask yourself, what is that anxiety question that my ideal customer is asking themselves at 3 o'clock in the morning? What's keeping them awake at night? What is it that they're focused on? What is it they're obsessed about in solving? And then ask, is my ideal audience clearly defined? Is it too broad? Rarely is it too narrow, but it could be. Mostly it's too broad. Are my ideal people a narrow segment of a larger population? Are they, who are the early adopters? So the ideal scenario we're looking for is a narrow market, a clearly defined ideal client so they can raise their hands and say, that's me. And we want to have strong demand. So look at your company, your market, and we're going to talk about all of these. Next, we're going to look at your product or your service offering. What does your ideal audience need right now? How do they want to access that? And how quick is the payoff? So this is where I'm seeing the most shift in my clients. It's not so much that the audience has shifted. There may be something that you offer one audience and now it's appropriate for another ideal client segment, but mostly the flexibility is in what you offer and how you offer it. So you may have a 6-month engagement that you typically offer for your ideal clients. Well, that's probably a bigger investment in a longer period of time than people want to invest in right now. So what is the thing that they need most right now? And can you carve out a piece of what you do and give them a quick payoff? Now, in my vernacular, this is part of a services value ladder where you're stacking the value of the services that you deliver so that your clients stay with you for a longer period of time. So you serve fewer clients with higher fees, but they need to start somewhere. And what is the value-based price of that offering? So we're not going to get into pricing in depth, but if you have a question about pricing, it is one of my favorite things to talk about, how you price based on your return on advantage in your marketplace. And I'm happy to talk to you about that if you want to reach out after this session. So the ideal scenario is that it solves immediate need, it has a high value outcome, and delivers quick results. And then let's talk about your message. How does your ideal buyer talk or think about their challenge? What we want to do is have this visceral connection to how your customers think about their problem, how they think about the solutions. And if you're not tapped in to that mental channel that your ideal clients are playing over and over again in their minds, then doing some market research interviews is probably a good thing to do about now. Because you are all thought leaders in your category, whether you're a thought leader inside your company or you're a thought leader outside in the marketplace. How are people connecting with the message, and how are you carving out a unique value proposition based on that message and that desired outcome? And what is your bridge to that solution? So they have a challenge. This is what we call the customer journey. Your customer has a challenge. They have somewhere they want to be on the other side of that challenge, and your bridge to that solution is the customer journey. And how can you make it compelling? How can you stop the scroll on LinkedIn and have people stop and pay attention to your message? So when your messages are really strong, you're hooking them with a strong headline, you're capturing them with your narrative, you have clearly aligned your benefits of working with you to their goals. So I'd love for you to look at the problem, the people, the product, and the message. And let's have a conversation of where do you need to focus your attention right now in order to generate consistent growth in the last quarter here of 2022, and to set yourself up for success in 2023. So first, would love to open it up for comments. Hello, Shelley. Hello, Maureen. Great to see you. Tiffany, Michelle, welcome. Any thoughts? Did that make sense, first of all? All right, great. Andrea, would you like to share more about that?
Thank you so much. I know that there are a dozen places you could have been in this hour, and I'm highly grateful that you chose to be with Ellevate Network, the Executive Council, and spend some time with me. I would love to connect with you on LinkedIn to make it super easy. That is my QR code. You can just take a picture of that and click on my profile, and would love to stay connected. And for those of you who are business owners, join us every Thursday at 4 p.m. for the Entrepreneurs Roundtable. Put a little plug in there for us, Kalpa. Kalpa is a co-chapter leader with me there, and we have great fun. And I think Monica Montfrey is joining us next week. And who's tonight? I mean, who's this week? Oh, that's this week.
That's me.
That's you.
That's me. I'm on the hot seat.
You're on the hot seat. What are you doing for us this week, Kalpa?
Again, serving. So really, I'm teaching how to launch a mastermind based on your lived experiences. And this is where many of you, if you are in the corporate career or you've already left and you're you're kind of keeping your life separate. How do you bring all that in and kind of help your younger you? So more on that like this Thursday.
Excellent. And then next week we have Monica Montfrey joining us talking about social media strategies at work. So that's just another way to increase the value that you get from your Ellevate experience.
Yeah. Thank you, Deb, and thanks everyone for joining today. Here at the Executive Roundtable next week, we'll be talking about joining nonprofit boards and what do you do after you're on one. So hope to see you all next week.